Florida State should absolutely overpay to keep Tony White.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I truly appreciate you talking Florida State with me every day, at least once, if not twice, as we're going to have a blast this week as we get ready, gearing up for ACC conference play. Kent State this week. Going to talk snap counts. We're going to talk about Duce Robinson, all kinds of fun stuff. But most importantly, and if you take nothing else from this podcast, note the following. Florida State would be wise to overpay when it happens, not if, other teams, both at the college and professional levels, come to try to take him away. Here is why. Number one, he's elite. What he did at Syracuse, what he did at Nebraska is why he got hired to Florida State. That is fact. Number two, he has done tremendous things in 2 games that really nobody expected. The buy-in, I thought would take 2 years. He did it in 2 games. Guys that don't buy in, they're the ones sitting on the bench. Mickey Andrews, I guarantee you, applauds. And so does any other defensive coordinator or coach in general, offense or defense. Getting young men to buy in sounds simple. It is not. Tony White and the rest of the defensive staff, and credit to Norvell, strength staff, everybody, have done a great job working together. Let me give you a comparison. This is another reason Florida State should absolutely overpay when, not if, he gets offers from other institutions. Yes, we'll talk about UCLA in a second, but I digress. The point is still the same. When Bowden had those 14 consecutive seasons of top 4 finishes, you know what was the key ingredient? The staff staying together. Mickey Andrews never left. Mickey could have taken jobs. Somebody would have given him a head job. He stayed. He liked working with Bowden, absolutely. But he stayed. They compensated him. They make him feel comfortable, make his family feel comfortable. He stayed. You can use that with Mark Richt. Richt had a lot of opportunities prior to taking the Georgia job. So on and so forth. You have to be in a scenario where your staff stays together. And there's a lot of little things, but compensation, as you all know, is number one on the board. Florida State should overpay to keep him. Good recruiter. He's had continuity. He's changed the culture faster than I've ever seen off the top of my head at any program. That defense had loafs all over the place last year. The guy that I was complaining about was Daryl Jackson Jr. Now he's the leader of the defense. What changed? Daryl's still Daryl, but you brought in a new staff led by Tony White. Florida State should overpay to keep Tony White. And now let me define what overpay means. Let's say it's the Steelers. Let's say it is UCLA. By the way, for those you do not know, UCLA obviously fired Deshaun Foster. That is where Coach White played linebacker. He played linebacker for the UCLA Bruins. Alma mater, I know a lot of people are saying, he would never take. Don't ever say never with one's alma mater. Don't do that. Be smart. If he leaves for a head coaching job and like $6 million somewhere, it is what it is. But I'm talking about lateral moves. If other jobs come open for him to be a coordinator and you lose him, that's on Florida State. If Tony White leaves for a head coaching job and he goes make $6-7 million somewhere, it is what it is. You got to be realistic. You're not going to pay a coordinator $6 million. I get it. But anybody else, college football or pro, makes a offer, you have to go over that offer above and beyond. Because if you lose him, are you really going to find somebody that can flip a culture in a couple of games? I was kind of worried, to be honest, about the East Texas A&M game. Like, are they really going to play hard? Is he going to have them mentally focused? They came out laser focused. That's harder than the Bama game because these kids look at the helmet. I know coaches and old school fans, old school players, they hate hearing that. These players, and it's not just FSU, this is across the sport. They look at the helmet. That's how they practice during the week. This isn't just my opinion. This is talking to coaches. This is talking to trainers. This is talking to 7-on-7 people, high school coaches. They look at helmets. Drives coaches nuts, but it's true. How in the world do you get guys up for East Texas A&M after you beat Bama. Coach White's your defense coordinator. Did you see how that defense played in the first quarter against them? Then the backups, then the backups after them, then the backups after them. Overpay for Tony White. And now let's just talk pure finance. Congrats to Florida State and their administration and the ACC and the rest of everybody else in the conference coming up with a new idea. Eyeballs get you money. Florida State, Clemson, and Miami will benefit the most, but they're the ones bringing in the most profits. That's great. If you have Tony White and you're winning, don't you think you're going to make more money? So let's say you give him an extra $400K, $500K than some other offer. And they're coming. Again, they are absolutely coming. UCLA is one of them. But there will be more. There will be more. UCLA is going to want to interview him and all that. I don't know if they'll make a formal offer, but they're going to be coordinator jobs across college football. Who knows? It could be Clemson. It could be Notre Dame. It could be Kentucky. I have no idea. He's going to get ridiculous offers, especially SEC Big Ten programs. There's going to be people, hey, why don't you come coach for us? We'll pay you this. FSU's got to go above and beyond. Set the precedent, set the standard. Florida State football means business. And the boosters, yeah, they're going to be calling you. That's part of it. It is what it is. That's just part of business. You got to have the cash. But if you don't do it, are you going to find somebody even close to as good as what Coach White has done? Maybe. But what are the odds of that? Mickey Andrews is one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. And I do not expect Coach White to stick around in Tallahassee, 25 years, 30 years, whatever it was. That's probably not realistic in today's era. But getting 5 years out of him can help you not only win, possibly title, it can help you catapult from this ACC conference that nobody really wants to be in. I don't want to cover it either, I assure you, to maybe the Big Ten, to maybe it's SEC. Whatever happens, happens. But it's not going to hurt. Again, for $400,000 or $500K a year, you have to look at the overall big box. There are so many reasons I could go on and on and on. Overpay for Tony White. If you don't, you're shooting yourself in the foot long-term financially, socially, and who doesn't want to win more? The administration should want to win more. The president, board of trustees, former players. I guarantee you, if you call Charlie Ward right now, he's going to tell you, yeah, keep Tony White. Make it happen. And he should. That would be the same for Work Done. That would be the same for Peter Boulware. Anybody that's a traditional role, somebody that won a title, that played on a great team, that's a Hall of Famer, any of that. They know what it's like to be around a staff that wins and is congruent. It started with Mickey back in the day. Jimbo had great staffs. If you don't have that, even with great players, it doesn't work. Look at Notre Dame. They changed their coordinator because he left. I mean, it wasn't their fault, but they hired the wrong guy. They stink. Notre Dame has elite talent on their defense, and they are horrible. Every time you have a change, regardless of your talent, you are at risk. Overpay for Tony White. When we come back, we're going to talk about Duce Robinson, how important he is, much like Tony White, for Florida State to make a title run this year. The Noles have to protect him, and this is very, very specific. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by the Game Cap, and I got a question for all you Noles fans out there. If you could go back and watch a famous game with the Noles against Miami, against Clemson, against Florida, what hat would you be wearing? And yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the Game. These aren't just hats. These are the same vintage styles that I used to wear back in the 80s and 90s, and I loved them. And I still have some of those types of hats that I see, and I've got a few of them laying up around here somewhere. But if you could go get one now and not have to pay the ridiculous prices, would you want to do it? Well, if you use code LOCKEDON, you can get your vintage hat for $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com. That is thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy, they've kind of changed it up a little bit. I'll give them some credit. They've got 17 new bold flavors for caffeine. If you like getting coffee in the morning but don't have the time or you want to do something on the go, each of these 2-ounce shots gives you the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee. Plus, what you're going to love the most, again, it's 2 ounces. It's portable. You can take it anywhere, big taste in a tiny shot. So you get the boost whenever you need it on the go. So going to the golf course, going to the gym, going out with friends, or if you just need to get some work done, 5 hours got you covered. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy. Just go to www.5hourenergy.com or head over to Amazon today. And our show is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel has an opportunity for you with the NFL season being here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff. And if you haven't already, here's your opportunity. $5. If that bet wins, you can get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app or FanDuel.com. All you got to do, again, is just bet $5. So if you want to bet on the Bills, the Colts, the Texans, the Rams, or anybody else, just basic, yeah, you can do that. Player props, parlays, or anything else, FanDuel has you covered. So you're ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and use code or go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. College football has special players at every program that have a chance to win. And I think Florida State has one in Duce Robinson. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Seminoles. And if you have not already, please like and subscribe to this podcast. We're having some fun this week because they're going to kill Kent State. And this is a barometer game for me. This game is actually more important than the Virginia one. And it starts with Duce Robinson. How much are the younger players going to get out on the field and get an opportunity to play at the boundary receiver position? To just be clear, boundary is the big-bodied guy that's usually going against a really talented corner at the P4 level. Size matters, like height matters, everything. This is the measurables position more than any other of the skill spots on a football field. Do you have a 6'3 plus wide receiver that the other team has to respect? That's a checkbox. Florida State has a very elite player that's in a niche that's super small. He's at least 6'5". I've stood next to Duce. He's at least 6'5". 220 plus pounds. That is a big dude. But he's still going to take attrition. And that's why they didn't play him for a long time against East Texas A&M. They got to keep that up. But there's also another point to this. Who comes in the game when Duce Robinson comes out? Tayshawn Gelsey, Elijah Moore, or do they mix it up? Do they play some? I mean, they could do this. I'm curious if they're going to play Amari Williams, Wayne and Thomas, Chase Lofton, any of the tight ends. It would not surprise me. There's no doubt that Norvell and Gus Malzahn really like just pure metrics. Elite speed. Thank you for some of the players they've had over the years, but I don't know if anybody is as fast as number 19, Mekhi Danzig. That's one other thing they could do. And then it is size. For the screen game and the deep game, both of them are important. The screens, they help block. They can certainly catch passes and make plays too. And then the deep game, there aren't many guys that can shield off a DB the way Duce Robinson does. That catch he had in the end zone, it's rare. But he's got to come out for breathers. And what if he got hurt? You need other guys to step up. So which one is it going to be? I know there could be several, but preferably there's a definitive number 2. Right now, do we know if there is? Debatable. I was looking at some numbers on Pro Football Focus with all the different snap counts before the show, and I'll pull it up here for those of you on YouTube, and I'll explain it for all those that you that are listening. This is a really interesting combination. Florida State's been pretty balanced with their snap counts. Got the receivers pulled up here. Boggs has got 58. He's playing slot primarily. Mekhi Danzig will play out wide to the other side. He's got 41. Duce has got the most snaps. That's not surprising. He's got 94. He's far and away. I'd like to see that number go way down in this next game. I'd like to see him play 20 snaps, to be honest. Play 2-3 drives, and his day is done. If he goes to 25 or so, whatever, but really don't want more than that. Squirrel's out right now, too, unless somebody knows something that I don't. But he's got 44 reps. They just don't have a lot of guys with a ton of snaps here. So who are some of the guys that have played otherwise that might be able to play that spot? Gelsey has 17. He's a big body guy. He's like 220, 230 pounds. Lofton, he's really a receiver right now more than he is a tight end. He's got 11 snaps. And then again, Amari Williams, I think, could play about whatever. You can label him a tight end. Feel free. he's a freaky athlete. I think he's as much receiver as he is tight end, especially for how Florida State operates things. And if Landon Thomas is 100% healthy, and I have no idea, I would not be surprised at some point to see him playing out there, especially in the boundary situation when you're in the red zone. Make the other team make a decision. If they're in man, do you really want a linebacker on that guy? Do you? It's not fun. So I'm not sure how they'll do it. We'll hear more and more about this over time because they got to find ways to get him off the field, save reps. Because if you're going to make a playoff run, you have to find a way to preserve him while also increasing the players behind him. You know, not just for next year, but again, he could get banged up, even if it's for 2 series. If Duce misses 2 series, let's say against Miami, twists his ankle or something, are you going to be comfortable running the quote unquote exact same play calls? He's a big part of your play sheet. Are they really that comfortable? And for the record, and I'm not picking on Mike or Gus or anybody, they're not going to answer that question honestly at a press conference, in my opinion, because they gain nothing. Do they trust the other guys as much as Duce? No. But do they have some faith in them? They can run those plays? Sure. It's just not the same. But they got to get them up to par to at least be good. I'm not expecting, like Gelsey, just as an example, he's not going to suddenly be 90% of what Duce is. It takes time. But he's a guy that I think could be pretty good. He could be somebody that goes out there and makes enough plays, especially blocking. That's a big dude. Could Florida State find a way to use somebody else? Possibly. But those are the ones in particular that I think. Gelsey, Lofton, Amari Williams, Landon Thomas, those guys, in addition to Elijah Moore. I talked about Moore a bunch in the spring, the summer. He hasn't played a ton yet. Really need to see him take a jump too because he's got serious skills, great hands, and he's 6'4". One of those guys at least has to take that big step forward for Florida State, in my opinion. And if that happens, Florida State will be better for it. They're probably going to have an opportunity to win more games. Tomorrow's show, it's something that I know all of you are going to enjoy. There's a little extra for the Miami game this year, if that's possible. If Florida State doesn't beat Miami, even if they beat Clemson, there's a chance they don't make the ACC title game. I'll explain why on tomorrow's show. It's a little touchy, but we got to talk about that. That will be the priority. That is going to be some fun, but again, it's hard to put more emphasis on the Miami game. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Seminoles. Please like and subscribe. We will see you later on Locked On Seminoles.